All right, so today I am going to put some baby back ribs on the Pit Boss. We've got a little pellet smoker that we travel with, and it's a perfect size for 2 racks of baby backs. Just got those at the grocery store, and normally you don't have to do any trimming on these baby backs. I mean, they're pretty much ready to go. Although this particular rack that I'm messing with there, it got really thin right there at the end. So I decided to go ahead and trim that off of there. We like to do baby backs. There's a lot of meat on them. And when I pick those out at the grocery store, I usually look for those that have a pretty good amount of that fat layer on that meat side. Fat is flavor, and it just helps them stay moist. These usually run about 4 hours total on the Pit Boss at about 250 degrees. So I've got those laid out there, and just checking them out. You'll see they've got that membrane on that backside there. I found one little flap there that I needed to go ahead and trim off. But you see they've got that membrane on that backside. I usually take that off. When I first started smoking baby back ribs about 8-9 years ago, I would just leave that membrane on, and when you're eating the rib, that membrane it gets dried up, and it just kind of tears. You have to kind of tear it with your teeth, and I don't know. To me, it doesn't really enhance the flavor of the ribs. As a matter of fact, I feel like that membrane blocks the smoke flavor from getting in, and you can season that backside of the rib of the rack, but if that membrane's on there, then hardly anything's really going to get through to the actual meat. So what I do is I'll take my knife and find a little starting point if I feel like I need to, but I'll use a paper towel, and that gives me a good chance to just get a good grip on the edge of that membrane. Now, if you're lucky, you'll get that thing off in one pull. In this particular case, it did not come off all in one pull. It was being real stubborn, but sooner or later you'll see that I get it off there, and the next one fortunately comes off perfectly like it's supposed to, all in one pull. So like I said, it doesn't always work out, but I don't know, it's just the fun of cooking. It's never the same. So like I said, we'll put these on the smoker at 250 degrees, and it's a low enough temp where you still get a lot of good smoke, but it's not too low that they sit there and try to dry out. You don't want to leave them on too long. But I'll put them on at 250 degrees, and what I'll normally do is I'll actually, on baby backs, because they are thick enough, I can use my temperature probe. And once that internal temp of that thickest part of the rack hits about 165, 170, I'll go ahead and wrap them in full, and you'll see that as we get further into the video. Now on this one, it worked out perfect. I trimmed off a little edge there so I could get something to grab onto, and just used my paper towel, and ended up, I saw an edge over on the other side that was already ready for me to grab. So watch this. This is how it normally goes, all in one swipe. That worked out perfectly. So there you have it, a couple of good looking little racks of baby backs. So for the seasoning, what I'll do is I'll start off with some mustard and get that on there. I'll start with the mustard. Rub that on pretty good. It doesn't take a whole lot. It's just enough to get your seasoning, your rub, to have something to bond to, and it also helps create a nice little bark. You're not actually going to taste the mustard on these ribs, believe it or not. And if you wanted to use olive oil, you can use olive oil, whatever you like. But I always just, anytime I'm doing pork, if I'm doing a pork shoulder, to do some pulled pork, I'll rub it down with mustard first. So we get these things coated pretty good with some mustard, and flip it over there. Just a light, nice coating. Ribs are a lot of fun, and they're pretty quick. So if it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon and you decide you want to have some ribs for supper, you still got plenty of time. We get these on the grill at 2 or 3 o'clock, and you're eating by 6 or 7. So works out good. Now the barbecue rub that I always use is the Head Country. It's just got a really good flavor. I've been using it for, over 20 years. It's just always been my go-to, my favorite. Made in Oklahoma. And so I'm going to put a nice, solid coating of this barbecue rub. Head Country they also make really good barbecue sauces. As of just the last few years, they started coming out with some other different flavors, and you're going to see that I'm going to use an original barbecue sauce on one of these racks, and then they have a new flavor called apple habanero that I'm going to use on the other rack. So like I said, I'm going to get a nice good coating and seasoning on them. I start on the bone side, the rib side, because that way I can flip them over and finish off on that meat side. When I put these on the smoker, I'm going to put them down just like they lay right there, with the rib side down. Because in the pellet smoker, your heat is below, so and your smoke rolls around and comes in through the top. But I let the rib side pretty much just protect that meat. So once we get these all seasoned up, we'll let them get to, they were still pretty cold because, like I said, I had just went to the store and picked these up, so they were still pretty cool. A lot of times you'll pick them up and they'll be right there in that bin at the store, and they'll still be almost half frozen. I don't like to put them on the grill until they're about room temperature, but usually when I finish putting the rub on them, I'll start the smoker up and get it up to temp to where it's maintaining 250 degrees. As you can see, that's not a big smoker. We used to travel around with the big one, and gosh, it was just a pain trying to get that thing around. We travel with work, and we may stay in one place for a while, but then there's times where we're packing up and moving to a different location, within just a month's time. So this little smoker here does really well for just Christy and I. So I set those ribs in there and lay them down nice and neat. And you'll see here what I'm doing is I want to make sure that the edge where the rib bones would be, protruding out, I want that side to face me. And on this particular smoker, all of them are kind of a little bit different, I guess you could say, but some of them have kind of a hot side and a cooler side. And I've noticed on the left side of this smoker, it is a little bit hotter, but not enough to really make a whole lot of difference. So there you go. Those have actually been on the smoker for about 2 to 2.5 hours, a little less than 2.5 hours, and you can see that they've got a really nice color forming on them. You're starting to see some of that fat render down, and you can start to see the bones kind of trying to protrude out of there. So I ended up checking the internal temp on these, and I was sitting at about 170. So I said, all right, it's time to wrap. So what I do is I take my foil And I take my Head Country barbecue sauce, and right where I'm going to be placing my rack of ribs on the foil, I take the barbecue sauce, put it out there, and then I take a little bit of brown sugar, about a tablespoon, and then let's see here, it just gives you a nice, sweet and sticky and flavor. It looks like I'm using a couple of tablespoons here. And then I've got some melted butter. I'm not going to put a whole lot, just to drizzle that down on there. And then, now, this is probably the rack for Christy, so I'm probably not going to put any cayenne pepper, but I am going to put a little bit of Head Country down on that area. I like you'll notice when I'm doing my rack of ribs, I'll put some cayenne pepper down there because I like the sweet and spicy. So now that I've got my barbecue sauce and everything laid out there, I'm going to take my rack and basically I'm going to take this and place it meat down. There, I'm just showing you where you can start to see the meat has started to draw back on the bones. I'm revealing about 1/4 of an inch of bone there. That's kind of a telltale sign for me that they're ready to be wrapped up. This just helps. It does kind of speed up the cook a little bit, but it really just makes them so tender and juicy. So like you see there, I set the rack down, and now I'm adding a little more barbecue sauce to the rib side, a little more melted butter, a little more brown sugar, and a little more Head Country barbecue rub. And I'm going to fold that over to where I can tuck that underneath. And then I'll take my ends and bring that over. Just to help them get a good seal on them. You don't want your juice running out of the ends. Right. Now that rack is ready to throw back on the grill, and I'm just gonna make sure that I place it back on the grill. I place it back to where like it was when I started. I put it with the rib side down. All right, so now we're ready to get the foil ready for the next rack of ribs. This time I'm going to use the apple habanero flavor of Head Country for the barbecue sauce. So once I've got that laid down on there, I'll come in with the brown sugar, the melted butter, these things are so packed with flavor. These ribs are so packed with flavor. Every time that we have cooked these, we like to share with somebody any chance we get, and it's just all they talk about whenever we cook these things up. They're asking us when we're going to do them again. By the way, you'll have to excuse me. My allergies have been bothering me a lot lately, so if I sound stuffed up, it's because I am. But I did want to mention, if you do enjoy our videos, if you feel like you get some good tips on cooking, then we would greatly appreciate it if you hit the like button, the thumbs up, and subscribe to see more content that we'll have in the future. It just helps our channel out a lot. We're trying to grow the channel, and as you can see here, we've got the second rack of ribs. I'm actually putting the apple habanero sauce on the top there. And we'll go in with the melted butter and just repeat the process that we did before. I'm actually putting a little bit of cayenne there. Get that nice sweet and spicy flavor. There's the brown sugar. And so now we've had these wrapped up and on the smoker for about an hour, a little over an hour. And I came out and I checked the internal temp, and we were sitting at about 204 degrees, which is a really good temp to go ahead and pull them. Anywhere from about, I'd say 203 to 207 is a really good temp to get you that good tenderness, and you'll still have a lot of juicy meat. So once I brought them inside, let them rest. Let them stay in the foil and rest for about 30 minutes, and then unwrapped them, and we're cutting into one to see how we did here. I'll tell you what, if you follow these steps, you will get a juicy, tender, flavor-packed rib every time, and you're going to get a nice clean bite that comes clean off the bone. You don't have to tear the meat with your teeth. It's just a nice, tender bite, clean off the bone. Look at the juice. It's amazing. They're still screaming hot, though, so I was hesitant to take that first bite, but here we go. Perfect. Really, really good flavor. And that apple habanero on these ribs is just amazing. If you can get your hands on it, I know you can. If your local store does not sell the head country, then you can also go online and buy online. So look how clean that bone comes. You just pull the meat right off. It doesn't fall off the bone. So they weren't overcooked. They were cooked just right. Like I said, just follow those simple steps. Smoker at 250 degrees, wrap when the internal hits about 165 to 170, and pull them off at about anywhere between 203 and 207, and you're going to get a nice, tender, juicy, flavor-packed rib. I appreciate you guys watching, and feel free to leave some comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and let us know what you think. Have an awesome day.